There's a very good chance that you're making this mistake with crypto trading, with crypto investing. And that is not having an exit strategy. A lot of people buy an asset and they're not really thinking about when to sell the asset. And sometimes for some assets that might be okay. If you're buying a house and you don't yet have a plan when to sell that house, that's fair. If you're buying stocks, let's say just S&P 500 ETFs for your retirement, you're not really actively thinking about when to exit, that's fine. You could potentially even transfer this to Bitcoin, even though I'm not a fan of that. But you should definitely not transfer this to the altcoins, to the very, very volatile assets. The more volatile an asset is, the more you want to have an active plan on how to at least rebalance your portfolio. So let's say you're buying Bitcoin, right? Some people say you should never sell your Bitcoin. And whenever I make a video about that Bitcoin might be heated and that it might make sense to at least temporarily take some profit, there are comments below that say you will regret those sales. You should never sell Bitcoin. You should simply just follow what Michael Saylor is basically saying. But I tend to disagree, because the issue is if you buy Bitcoin and you never sell it and Bitcoin goes through the roof, then in the end you expose yourself over time to more and more volatility. So Bitcoin obviously goes up and crashes a lot and goes up and crashes a lot. And those crashes can easily exceed 60, 70, sometimes 80%, right? From all-time high to bear market bottom. So you see those massive crashes. Now, if you never sell your Bitcoin and Bitcoin long-term appreciates, then what happens is the fraction of your overall wealth deposited in Bitcoin, allocated to Bitcoin, increases with time. So you might have started with just, say, a 5% wealth allocation to Bitcoin. That grows then in a bull market to maybe 30, 40, 50%, and then a potential crash can happen. Now, when 50% of your wealth is in Bitcoin and a crash of, say, 50% happens, suddenly your wealth fluctuated by 25%. Now, a lot of people don't want that, right? They don't want a diversified portfolio to go down that much. That's why in the first place, they only bought, say, 5% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. They didn't want that volatility. And so if you never balance out your portfolio and you simply just keep holding Bitcoin forever, then you're increasing your portfolio volatility each time. You're increasing your portfolio volatility over every single cycle. And that's a problem.
This needs to go to 1 million, or March buyers now will make millions. This is how you get the clicks on YouTube, but this is not how you beat the market. To beat the market in crypto, you need to be better informed than the rest. You need to be better skilled than the rest. You need to do better blockchain analytics. You need to track other people's wallets and know what is the smart money doing. It's the boring educational content that forms skill that doesn't perform so well on YouTube though. That's why I created the premium membership. Feel free to check it out. We are tracking influencer wallets to find out what they are buying before promoting this on YouTube. We've got a lot of tutorials to help with on-chain analytics, to help with wallet discovery. And of course, there are also plenty of chats where we help each other, and also one-on-one conversations with me. So I'm messaging every premium member one-on-one directly. Once you're joining, you will get a message from me and you have the opportunity to directly pick my brain. Feel free to check it out. TheBitcoinTrader.com, link is down below.
And so at least when there is a lot of volatility, you want to somewhat balance out your portfolio. Now for trading, you have to be even more aggressive with selling. Because very often, especially with altcoin trading, you've got this effect that the winner takes most. In other words, most altcoins underperform Bitcoin most of the time. Some altcoins outperform Bitcoin sometimes. So you want to be selective in this, right? You don't want to hold 30, 40 different altcoins because most altcoins tend to underperform. You also don't want to have this broadly diversified portfolio most of the time. You only want to have it when there's altcoin season. So you have to figure out what are the right altcoins. You have to figure out when is their altcoin season. And you don't want to spread yourself too much. And you want to have this exit strategy. Because if you don't exit, you simply just continue to accumulate, you will underperform Bitcoin. So it is very much a winner takes most game. It's very much a game where most of the capital over time simply accumulates in Bitcoin, but where you can still outperform if you time it right, if you have enough information, if you simply trade better than others, if you interpret the data a bit better than most other people. You can still outperform in altcoins, but you have to do your work. And one thing is to figure out when to sell. Now, when would you sell an altcoin? Do you do this the same way as selling Bitcoin? I don't think so. So for Bitcoin, you're simply just rebalancing a portfolio. But for altcoins, what you want to do is you want to check your investment thesis. So you want to think about, why did you buy in the first place? And what needs to change for that thesis to flip? So let's say you're buying an altcoin because you saw an influencer buying it as well. You're tracking an influencer wallet, you get a signal, okay, that influencer bought, and so you expect the influencer to make a video about this asset. When that happens, and the price should go up, right, because there's more attention on the asset. So you're buying because of that thesis. Now you know that the influencer maybe does that video 2, 3, 4, 5 days after purchasing. So when you see how this thesis gets invalidated, so let's say the purchase happened, the video did not happen, and you waited already for 1.5 or 2 weeks, then you have to sell, right? Then you should not suddenly change your investment thesis and say, okay, yeah, this asset fundamentally actually also looks fine. I simply just keep holding and see how it develops. That's a bad way of thinking about things, right? You want to have very crystal clear alpha. You want to know where your outperformance is coming from. In this example, it was from the video publishing or from the anticipated video publishing that might or might not come, right? But at least you've got a clear thesis why you should be making money. Another example would be maybe you're tracking whale wallets. Maybe you're tracking that the number of whale wallets in a certain asset is going up over time. If that's the case, maybe you want to track those whale wallets closely going forward and then sell when the number of whale wallets goes down. Right, so you've got a different trigger to sell, but still you've got a very clearly defined reason to sell. You should always stick to your initial thesis. You shouldn't midway change the thesis, because then in the end you mix up things, you justify holding assets you shouldn't be holding. Things all get muddy and not very clean. You want to be predetermining the reason why you sell beforehand, because then there's no more emotions, right? Then you're not just tied up in the ups and downs of the market. You're not just thinking, oh, okay, I went up 50%, let's take some profit. But you still see the whales continue to accumulate. Then the price goes up further, you've already sold a bit, and then you're wondering, why did you actually sell in the first place? You were right in the first place. So make sure that you've got a plan to sell whenever you trade altcoins, whenever you trade very risky stuff, whenever you trade assets that tend to actually depreciate over time. You can trade those meme coins, you can trade those random altcoins that nobody really cares about in the moment, but make sure you don't just hold the bag forever, because long term they don't do well. Have a clearly defined exit strategy. That's super important, and that's what the whales are doing, right? The whales tend to be selling much, much faster than retail does. Retail simply just buys and allocates and forgets the allocation in their portfolio. They don't actively go in and out. Whales do the opposite. Whales, they tend to sell very fast once momentum slows down. And I believe that's the better approach to go about it, because this is how crypto works, right? Crypto over time is a game of skill and luck. And as people trade more and more, the luck component becomes less important. The skill component becomes more important. So the capital simply just accumulates at the more skilled people, at the whales. And so we simply just have to follow what those people are doing as per tendency. And they tend to sell very, very fast when things aren't as positive anymore compared to when they entered. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time. Cheers.